It's a word I know all too well. The weight of responsibility and knowing the expectations of one who is under authority. It is my job, my role to play when handed instructions from above. Duty is not about convenience. It is not about sentiment, but loyalty. Loyalty to something greater. I am loyal to Rome. I served her for many years. At my command, my men who are under my authority carry out my orders with efficiency and precision as I do. It is the expectation of a Roman soldier. The men, when they join in their youth and hubris, find joy in cruelty and inciting fear. It's how they protect themselves. We can't be emotional. When we are not close and connected to those we rule, violence and fear are useful tools to ensure that when the hard things come, there is no interference. Blood. I have seen more blood in my life than I can recall. War, rebellions, now these crucifixions. It is the everyday work to remind the populace who is in charge. And yet, this was different. The men are dividing his garments now. I let them. It is our right. For the condemned do not need their clothes, but this tunic, it was different. Woven in one piece. No seams. A single perfect cloth. We cast lots for it. I suppose we thought it's going to fetch a good price. But how could we know? How could we know we were dividing the robes of a king? I did not expect this today. I did not expect him. I did not know him. I did know his name. Even the soldiers shared the stories of this man from Galilee. They spoke of miracles, of one of our own, a centurion in Capernaum, whose servant had become gravely ill. The servant was suffering. And this man healed him. You hear fantastical tales from young soldiers during wartime. Their imaginations tend to get the best of them. But this story, it was different. The situation, it must have been desperate. My fellow soldier sought after Jesus and made the request. The Jews, they voiced their support of my comrade. He had worked hard to build a relationship to their community. It seems his way of doing things is different than mine. He chose empathy and support to be a resource for these Jews. That is something I never thought was very important. What use? What use caring when power is more effective? But this story I can relate to. I can understand it. Because losing a good servant, a good manager of the household is extremely difficult. This fellow Roman told Jesus not to come to him, but just to give the word, and healing would take place. He said Jesus didn't even need to go and be in the same room, let alone touch the servant with his hands. Authority works that way. The superior gives the word, and it is done. There is no doubt this Jesus declared to his fellow Jews that nowhere in all of Israel had he encountered such faith. Jesus held such authority, performing these great works over and over again to make a statement like this one. What can that mean? A Jew? One of these whom we rule over? Made that kind of claim about one of our own? Such faith by a Roman. We Gentiles, as they call us. Outsiders. Heathens. The word of Jesus' authority and power, it began to spread from that time on. It really wasn't long after Jesus entered Jerusalem that I heard the voice of authority over me. It began this morning. Pilate was uneasy. He's never liked these Jews. He's never cared for their religious squabbles. He rules with calculated indifference. But today he was shaken. The Jews brought Jesus in after having him arrested in the night in the Garden of Gethsemane. Cowards. To operate in the darkness is of the deceitful and the weak. The strong and the righteous operate in the light of day. Pilate knew. He was being dragged into a political trap. Pilate, though, is not one to be given to manipulation. But his wife had a disturbing dream during the night, and even sent word to Pilate not to have anything to do with this man. But leadership demands courage to face the trap. Pilate is a great man of courage. He knew, and he was prepared. Pilate interviewed Jesus. I was there, in charge of the prisoner. Jesus was accused of being a king. He didn't look like he could have had a household, let alone be royalty. Boy, the Jews already gave him a beating. Pilate asked him anyway, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He was mystified, curious. Could Jesus be a threat? Could he be a threat to Rome? But it was Jesus' response that fell into the silence of the chamber. My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place. Pilate was confused as I was. He asked him, "So you are a king?" Pilate wanted to confirm the statement, and Jesus' response. "You say I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." Pilate's response was as wise as it was discouraging. He gave identity to what was obviously going on. What is truth? It reminded me of something I read from Socrates as a youth. Truth was true freedom. And a life without truth was not a life. It was living death. This man, Jesus, was not guilty of any wrongdoing against Rome or his people. But these Jews were threatened by Jesus. And they thought they could hold Rome hostage. Pilate went out to the leaders and to the crowd. "This man," he said, "I find no fault in him." But the crowd screamed for blood. Crucify him. Crucify him. Pilate tried to release Barabbas to them, a murderer, a real criminal. But they chose Barabbas. And this Jesus, what had he done? Even if that man is a governor. And so when Pilate washed his hands, Rome was innocent, but the Jews were driven and accepted consequences. But the act of bringing blood that was passed on to us. I gave the order. Now, it's customary to flog the condemned. Just another level of cruelty. We used canes of wood. And then we whipped him until his back was raw. The cat of nine tails is a monster. Leather bound to iron teeth. The whip bit deep, tearing flesh from bone. We mocked him, beat him, dared him while blindfolded to prophesy who was going to strike him next. We crowned him with thorns, draped a robe over his shoulders, and laughed, "Hail, King of the Jews." And yet, even then, he did not curse us. He did not beg for mercy. Such an odd crucifixion. We then made him carry the pallidum, the cross member, piece of the instrument of his death. He stumbled along the road. Pilate was clear. We were to perform efficiently. We did not have time to wait for Jesus. We found a man who was randomly walking along the road, who paused to see the spectacle. Knowing that Pilate desired to see this carried out swiftly, we pressed him into carrying the cross with Jesus up to the place of the skull, Golgotha, the hill of death, where all who pass by will see the message. I must admit, watching this man struggle and hearing the fierceness of the crowd, I was grieved. For criminals, this is proper, but for this seemingly peaceful rabbi. It just seemed wrong. I've seen men spit and scream at their executioners. I've seen hatred in their eyes. But in his, there was something else. Pity. Not for himself, but for us. Pilate had one last gift for the Jews. They put his back to the wall. But Pilate is not without a taste for vengeance. He had us carve into wood a sign saying, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. And we nailed it over Jesus' head. His ploy made them angry. Good. It pleased me as well. But that small joy was overshadowed by our next actions. Most who are condemned scream and fight with their last ounce of energy. They curse us, spit at us, and we get a semblance of satisfaction as we lash them to the cross and prepare to drive the nails. But Jesus, it looked like he welcomed it. Like this is where he belonged. Like it was calling him. I can't describe it. It was like he was walking towards his destiny. And he laid on it. But not a word. He was silent. And when we drove the nails into his hands and his feet, he cried out. But not in anger, not in rage. Father, forgive them. Over and over again, he said it. He forgives us. Those who pierced his flesh, who were the bringers of death to him. Forgive? Who does this? Who forgives his executioner? We were there when he hung, writhing in agony, sunburned hot. The crowd jeered, hurling their insults. The Jews were acting out of their heads. Something had overtaken them. The hate and the malice towards this man on the cross, where did it come from? I heard one of my men say, if you're the Son of God, come down from that cross. Yet he did not. He simply looked to the heavens and he cried out, "My God, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Later, his breathing grew shallower. And he looked at this woman. His mother. And a young man standing next to her, holding her. And he said, "Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." Even when death was upon him, Jesus surprised me. Who was this man? And then he whispered. "I thirst." And someone from the crowd, I don't remember who it was, offered him sour wine on a hyssop branch. And then, with his final breath, he shouted, "It is finished. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And he died. The Jews were frantic. Sabbath was near. And their law forbade leaving the bodies on the crosses. They petitioned Pilate to hasten the deaths. But make no mistake, it was not about compassion. It was about them and their rituals. So I sent for the mallets. And we broke the legs of the others. That always quickens the end. They pushed themselves up to make breathing easier. But when we came to Jesus, he was already gone. I must admit, I was thankful. One of the soldiers took his spear and pierced his side. And I saw it with my own eyes. Blood and water flowed. It was a humane check for death. He didn't flinch. He was lifeless as the blood and water appeared. I noticed that it was as if the heart itself had burst. And then it happened. Something I have never experienced before. As the wails of the mother rose up and the cries of anguish from those there to see him, the very earth began to shake. I have fought in battles. I have heard the clash of swords and the screams of the dying. But never have I seen the sky blacken at midday. Never have I felt the ground tremble under the death of a man. The gods of Rome have never shaken the earth like this. They say the great curtain in the temple of the Jews where they do all their worship, was torn in two. That veil that separates them from their God. If their God has done this, then surely this man was the Son of God.